Oh, and good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Corinne, always there early. Good
Impressive.
morning to you, Corinne, in the chat. And good morning, Jackie Blue.
That UE or EW. Good morning, and I enjoy the mix-up of music you're throwing at us these days. It's fun. Thanks, Corinne, for being there. I think Andy's there in the background as well today. I think he's day off work. So thanks for our regular listeners.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Phoenix. Hello, Phoenix. Thanks for saying hello in the chat. And hello to those of you who prefer to stay quiet in the chat also. Hello, Lynn.
Good morning, Lynn. Yeah, it's funny how there are people like, oh yeah, I saw your show. Like, oh wow, you're just kind of quiet. God bless, but quietly watching, not sitting at the computer doing stuff. Sometimes you have it on the background, like the old morning radio shows I grew up with in New York State.
Hmm.
So I'm excited about today. As we kind of mentioned briefly in our little pre-talk here, we sometimes have time for. We keep coming back around to the same topics about point rays and wild animals and domesticated cattle operations and the climate. And I had one friend who, made that observation. It wasn't a critique, but I keep kind of finding myself defending it, even though it wasn't a critique, saying, well, it's necessary because the lie about beef and dairy products, basically, I mean, it's called cattle grazing and all that, but it's eating beef and dairy products, just keeps coming up and coming up and coming up from every different direction. And today, as the title there shows, with a publication around here, a little paper called the Point Reyes Light, which we're occasionally calling the Point Reyes Lie, is once again at it, making the claim that in some variation, always variations, cattle ranching is good and regenerates the soil and heals the land, and the ranchers are, hardworking stewards of the land. And well, we're going to really go at it in depth, I think, at least in this one article, and then take off from there. I'm excited to do
Jack, it just gets more absurd. I'm ready for a range science paper to come out and declare that rainforests never existed without cattle. Like cattle, livestock were the origins of our wonderful rainforests, which now, of course, are being chopped down for cattle.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still at a rate of like an acre a second. Of course, this is, not in this country, but in South America, where we desperately need them as the lungs of the earth. But it goes on here too. I mean, that's kind of what I find myself picking issues as an activist to work on, because ultimately I'm a big nature lover, whether it's plants or animals, trees and all, but something that points to the macro, the planetary stuff, but is going on right here in educated, liberal, supposedly environmentally aware Marin County, where we attack forests now, claiming they're a fire hazard. We have to thin and manage all the forests everywhere. And I think in the show earlier, last comment, a forester who's well known around here, a local guy, is saying, yeah, we need to thin millions of acres of California forest. And when he says thin, he means use chainsaws and masticators and hack into the forests. And too many people, the public, which we educate, believe this nonsense.
I drove past Lake Merced yesterday, and they're chopping down all the trees there. They had trucks surrounding the entire lake. They're just chopping them all down. And I was thinking, there are more arborists than ever, while we have less trees than ever. Than at any period in time on this planet, we have less trees than ever, and yet somehow we need more tree choppers than ever.
So I used to live just a couple miles from there. You're talking about it was mostly Monterey pine, Monterey cypress around Lake Merced. Is that what you're talking about?
I
Or just drove by?
couldn't tell you because they're all stumps now.
Yeah, I find that stuff so deeply disturbing. Not that the foresters or arborists or contractors or even city and state agencies want to make money by doing this stuff, but that the public acquiesces, goes along with it, because they're fed two lies. One is, trees, a tree that's been there 100 years, a Monterey cypress, Monterey pine, not to mention eucalyptus trees, the big bad one, right? But these are demonized, and people believe it, that a tree is somehow a threat, that it's taking over Lake Merced and draining the lake. Like, that's the
well,
scary part. The public buys into this crap.
well, PG&E has screwed up terribly in San Francisco recently, and as usual, they're having fires and they have outdated equipment, and they've got to skip. They take every shortcut that they can for personal profits while everyone else suffers. And I would guess that they also are blaming trees and, hey, let's chop down the trees so that we don't have more of this. Like, it's 2025, almost 26, and we're the most intelligent species, and we don't know how to have trees and power
Well,
at the
that's
same
where
time.
you and I differ, darling Skylar. I don't think humans are the most intelligent species in the planet.
I know, self-declared, self-declared. It's a couple more
I'm
syllables I
teasing.
get
I'm
into
just
it.
teasing. I think anyone who watches the show, even just once, knows that you do not think we're the most intelligent species. We're probably aligned in thinking they're the least intelligent species, the only one, as I like to say, that's fouling its own life support system and the ecosystems of the planet.
Yeah. Well, we're so smart, but that goes back to my point. How is it that everything was fine when there were more trees, and now humans have decided, oh no, trees are the source of the problem?
Yeah, well, that's again the deeply disturbing stuff is that the average citizen can be converted from someone who used to love trees. I mean, there is still a tree love in the culture, but it is being supplanted, pun intended, to supplanted with fear of trees. They could fall down, they're diseased, they have beetles, they have blight, they're invasive, they're non native, they're, of course, the big one fire danger. A forest is referred to as a fuel load. I'm involved in this with Tamaulipas Bay State Park Forest, which is an ongoing fight that's heating up. I'll do that on another show. But I do want to get into this specific article I have on the screen here. I'm going to share in a moment.
Can
Oh,
I can I th- can I ask? Can I
anything.
throw in a little politics to before we move on?
Well, okay.
I'm curious what people in the chat think about this, because it's, you just mentioned problems existing and then not existing as needed, and I saw Erica Kirk's behavior, and I was like,
Oh,
at
God.
this point, I'm convinced that it was her idea to have Charlie shot. I mean, it's. But then I got to thinking also, how is it that before the election, when uh, Mr. Trump needed media attention, people couldn't shoot correctly, and once he was elected, now people can shoot correctly.
How do you mean shoot correctly? Tell me, you mean
So you
assassination?
like actually hit the target in a effective manner.
Well, it's a whole nother show, buddy. I was just saying, I don't, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, although, uh, Oswald, lone gunman back in my day, probably not. But, are people taking actual shots at him? Is it all staged, as some people insist? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't dug into it. I'm working on other stuff. And yeah, Corinne, it's super depressing about Lake Merced. We should stage a memorial there. Yeah, for me, I'm happy to stage memorials as a way to get attention if there's some specific action. I haven't said this before. One of the reasons I moved out of San Francisco, one of the reasons was it was too upsetting watching what few trees were trying to struggle and survive in a city of progressives, San Francisco, and
Mm-hmm.
environmentalists. How
Mm-hmm.
many trees were being assaulted constantly? Street trees.
Yeah.
Oh, that tree has reached the end of its life, so we're going to tear it out. Just no love and
That's
appreciation for the magic of trees, for their beauty, for their ecological service, for providing shade, for cooling a city, for being homes for the few animals that can live in an urban environment. All of that discarded, and trees are just routinely hacked, as you were just describing at Lake Merced this week.
and I went past, and I was at Maury Point, and they still have Monterey cypress there. And the person I was hiking with, I was like, they've used the excuse over in the Presidio that the Monterey cypress have passed their prime and should be chopped down. And I was just like, I wonder about these ones over here. And I wonder about all the ones down in Monterey. Are they past their prime? Or do you just make these things up in order to justify something you already wanted to do? And he just looks it up, and he's like, well, they have a age range between 100 and 300 years. And I'm like, just another extra 200 fucking years possible
Yeah.
past the 100 years where humans have decided, nope, you're done.
That same pseudo-scientific or non-scientific or nonsense thinking applies to Tomales Bay Forest, where the contractors and Cal Parks and Cal Fire, who's in on it too, assess. Uh, I don't know how old they are, 100 years, 125-year-old, 150-year-old bishop pine tree stands, and say, well, they're at the end of their lifespan, so we have to get in there and cut down all the other trees around them, like a big gardening project, to help these trees. And I mean, there's like three assumptions in there that are just false to begin with. That, I mean, not to mention that they need human help because, trees only lived for a couple 100 million years. What do they know before we showed up the scene to run around
I
with
mean,
them?
if any species is past its prime, it's the human species.
Exactly. Homo not so sapiens, as I like to call us. My own people. So what's
Okay.
visible on the screen here? I'm seeing four things. Okay, three things. Great. So thank you. Well done, sir. So this is the Point Reyes Light. For those people who don't know, it's as they like to claim, a Pulitzer Prize-winning newspaper in Westmoreland
Ugh.
County. Tiny little thing. Well, to be fair, that was a story they did. I actually, God, it was a Pulitzer they won in the, I don't know, in the 90s for reporting they did in a completely different issue. Nothing to do with cattle. It's got new owners now. And I don't even need to, I don't want to make it ad hominem. I just want to make it against this publication. And, you do what you're going to do, Skylar. But they're reporting on the story about the Nature Conservancy seeking bids from cattle ranchers to bring in cows to graze Point Reyes as a way to restore it from damage done by cows.
Yep.
So, as it's titled here in this story by the Point Reyes Light newspaper, which is online too, of course, Conservancy seeks contract cattle grazer. And this was an opportunity for, I mean, I know this young reporter, Sophia Grace Carter. I've spoken with her. She's perfectly polite to me. And I suspect more this is the handiwork of the editor publisher, Tess Elliott. Oops, I mentioned a name. It's like an opportunity now to cover the story. You take this picture. This is actually M Ranch. I do recognize this ranch with that. I mean, what a beautiful photo, says the layperson who doesn't know any better. With a little bit of coyote brush and Bishop Pines in the foreground there, and the blue sky and the kind of the sand dunes in the background of the Pacific Ocean. But then this, oh, what a wonderful green patch of land, a golf course, a monoculture golf course, as you wisely call it, rightly call it, of M Ranch. And this whole article becomes an excuse not just to say what the Nature Conservancy is saying, which is bad enough, but then to embellish it with this mosaic, this embroidered blanket of cattle industry propaganda lies. So a newspaper that used to do kind of hard-hitting journalism when it was founded in the 70s is now a rag writing long, well-written pieces. This one's not that long. Basically trumpeting every lie. I like using that word these days, trumpeting the lies of the cattle industry. And it starts right here. We don't have to get into there are some words, but here's just the caption. As European velvet grass encroaches on former pasture land at Point Reyes, the Nature Conservancy is urgently seeking a contractor to bring cattle to two vacated ranches. Its scientists say targeted grazing will keep invasives in check.
Who's scientists?
The scientists of the Nature Conservancy, and that's true. That's what we touched on last week. It's that one woman's name I'm blanking at the moment, but I found out that one of these papers that they refer to for proof that we need cows and somehow cows will instinctively go in and just eat the non-natives, which is so bizarre. If anything, they'd eat the natives also from Europe, where they grew co-adapted before they were imported into this country 150 years ago. And folks, look at poor Skylar. Look at the suffering he's willing to endure for
Can you
your.
read? Can you read the opening sentence again?
Well, this is just the caption.
Okay.
As European velvet grass encroaches.
Oh!
That was literally 5 words, folks.
As if it's new. It was introduced by the ranchers and is proliferated across Point Reyes National Seashore because of the ranchers. And here, oh, Point Reyes Light. needs to be burnt to the ground
He means that
with Tess
metaphorically,
Elliott
folks.
inside.
He means that metaphorically. Metaphorically, folks.
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
Meaning the claim is now that cattle have been removed for 2 months or 6 months or whatever, that there's a problem with velvet grass, as opposed to, no, the velvet grass problem exists because of the ranches. Just to
What do
make
you
that
think it would
clear.
take to get a Tess Elliott or one of the TNC scientists out there with us and have them explain their bullshit on camera
Ooh,
in
well,
real time and not hide behind a publication that feeds people who also don't go out and verify any of the bullshit that they say?
I don't think what would it take? I don't think anything would it take. I don't think it's possible. I don't think we
No.
can even get the Nature Conservancy, which is partnering.
I mean, even with money. I mean, they know they're lying. They wouldn't do it. They know that it would be incriminating. You
Right.
couldn't even pay them well to
Right.
go out there.
Right. Yeah. Well, you'd have to make a 500,000
Dear
donation.
Tess Elliott, this is a challenge. I am directly challenging you. Come on a tour with us and explain the bullshit that the Point Reyes Light is publishing in real time. Point it out to us.
Yeah. Well, you could ask the same of Kevin Lunny, who you
Uh,
might be able to coax Kevin Lunny into coming on, because he does love to talk, as I do, to be fair. But would he talk on camera?
he,
Interesting.
he he's as delusional as Trump. He honestly believes his own lies. He'll
Yeah.
he'll he'll spew them in front of us.
Kevin Lunny, by the way, folks, for those few who don't know, is one of the, well, or for the many who don't know, hopefully watching the show, is one of the ranchers out of Point Reyes Seashore who has agreed to leave, taking millions of dollars to. He's not selling his land. He sold it long ago. He was already paid once millions of dollars. It's taking millions of dollars raised by the Nature Conservancy to not fight to keep his lease, of which he's violated 10 ways to Sunday already by Twitter.
He's agreed to stop squatting
Right.
for a multi-million-dollar payout,
Right. Anyway,
but
so
not without crying the entire time.
and then right. So he takes the money and then says how it wasn't fair, and that, yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I just love that it just starts out with a bang. There's never nary a whimper here. So the first line. Here's a quiz for you, Skylar. Do you know where this line comes from? It's not the cow, it's the how. Ever heard that?
I you well, I have from you. You quoted some other publication recently that used it.
The one I heard that from, it was it. Oh, when I first saw Cowspiracy, and the producers of that film, Kip was one of them, was doing kind of a publicity tour, and he had a debate at the Commonwealth Club of San Francisco, prestigious little organization here, and he debated Nicolette Nyman of Nyman Ranch. Bill and Nicolette Nyman are partners in that company, which, by the way, has one of the two remaining ranches when the dust has settled at Point Reyes Seashore. She's the one that very cleverly, she's an amazing speaker, highly intelligent person, even savvy enough to claim that she's a vegetarian to her rancher husband. Of course, I don't believe her. Like, Hitler was a vegetarian too. Good analogy. But she says, it's not the cow, it's the how. Meaning cows aren't the problem. It's if you move them around the land better, then they're good, which is, of course, the core lie that we keep going at here. And as it says accurately here in this article, the phrase circulates. This phrase circulates among conservation-minded agriculturalists. I love that word right there. They're agriculturalists, not cattle ranchers. And it's one
Save
that
this.
Sasha Gannett, there's the woman, by the way, Sasha Gannett, a scientist and strategy manager for the Nature Conservancy's, get this, quote, North America Sustainable Grazing Lands Program.
Sasha, challenge from an amateur ecologist to a self-proclaimed actual scientist. I challenge you. I challenge you for a live camera tour out in Point Reyes.
Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to get Sasha Gannett to be on camera for you in a discussion with, I don't know, let's see, one of our biologists that we think the world of, Laura Cunningham of the world.
No, Laura's too polite.
Well, I think they could have a conversation. You'd film it and then you and I could rip into it. But yeah, no, both professional. But it just like,
I want it to be on site, not a Zoom thing, because
oh
I
yeah,
want to point to the evidence surrounding us.
oh yeah, no, in the field, absolutely.
While they pretend that it's not there.
Right. And this is an accurate sentence. The future of the Point Reyes National Seashore under the Nature Conservancy's stewardship She said that Sasha sorry, folks. Bear with Skylar. He's doing well. He's not killing anybody. Is built around this idea, not a point raised without cattle, God forbid, but a point raised where cattle are used as a management tool. That is the core issue and the core point of disagreement, shall I say, that we don't think
So
cattle.
how can we be improving upon what was already the best stewards of the land we could have hoped for? How are we going to improve upon that? Because the ranchers that were there were already the model of how to do this.
Well, it's analogous to the type of grass that's invading now, but wasn't before, even though it was, which is this is pointing toward, and where this article goes, which is, I mean, all these BS terms, they're all the same: conservation or similar, conservation grazing, holistic management, rotational grazing, regenerative ranching, all these terms, a lexicon of lies by the cattle industry. These things
Here,
are used
Leah,
interchangeably. And let's do comments, please.
go ahead.
So Leah says, just tuning in, I believe Michael Pollan started that "it's not the cow, it's the how" BS that everyone now repeats ad nauseum, including a few progressive non-vegan friends. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. It would make sense. He's certainly a good writer, although I've increasingly learned that for all the good he might have done in some ways, turning us on to the dangers of organic processed foods, and corporate takeover of food, he is a big apologist for the meat industry these days, and he really won't put his butt on the line and speak the things that I believe he's smart enough to know are true, which is beef and dairy are not sustainable products for anyone to eat and scale. And if you try to scale them up by using small regenerative ranching like this nonsense at Point Reyes, it's even worse. It produces more methane. It's more destructive of more land. The thing that they say is better, the clean coal of the cattle industry, as I call it, is actually filthier than the worst coal of the cattle industry. So, moving on. This is true. Earlier this month, the Nature Conservancy opened an application period for a short-term, there's the word, targeted grazing contract. A targeted grazing contract covering roughly 2,000 acres of former ranch land. And for those who don't know, there's 18,000 acres at Point Reyes that's so-called, there's another term of art, pastoral zone. Again, folks, watch Skylar. Just bear with the man. Send him money. Send him blankets of love to have him recover from this.
Jack, I'm going to express gratitude to you because you're continuing to do this while I just sit here dying. I'm not sure we would have a show. I just would, people would just be watching me die. Go ahead, continue.
No,
that was my attempt to be nice.
You and I talk about this off camera. I talk about it with friends. You and I make a nice team. We're different personality types, and we pick up the slack. Sometimes I go dark, and then we're both doing dark. I tend to want to go to humor, and that's appropriate sometimes. But sometimes, like Jack, stop the joking. It's not appropriate. And Skylar is, deadly, angrily serious. We have different styles. They work well together, in my opinion. So
hello there to Ray, and hello to Corinne again, and thank you for the super chat. Boy, you are the super chat queen.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, super chat meaning you pay some bucks and encourage other people to throw in 10 or 20 bucks to Skylar for hosting this thing on his platform. Are there more comments to read in here? I have not been.
No,
I like it. She says not ad nauseum, but ass nauseum of Michael Pollan. No, he sucks. She's disagreeing that he has any contribution anymore because he promotes humane and greenwashing. Humane washing and greenwashing. Yeah, it's true. And Ray, I'll get to your map order after the show, whatever that means. So I don't know how much of this some people are watching know this stuff, but this is the legal settlement brokered by the Nature Conservancy last year, which ended all dairying, meaning it closed 6 dairies, and most ranching in the park, meaning 6 of 12 beef ranches were closed. Basically, 12 of 14 businesses will be leaving only 2 behind. So not all cows are out of the park, which is why we activists still have work to do. And
yes, Ray, it's live. Is it not obvious that it's live?
Is this show live? I don't know. I'm not sure. Are we live? What is
I want to pose some questions to viewers just in case anyone listens that isn't already on our side. Sometimes they say that the plants that are encroaching is the native brush and that's the problem.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's accept that that's true, that that's what they have said and that's what they have published, and that the ranchers needed to stay to fight back the native plants from encroaching. This is real. I'm not making this up. The ranchers literally said their value was that they kept that European grassland, the velvet grass, for example, as was mentioned in what you're reading, and fought back the terrible coyote brush and trees and things like that.
Yep.
Today, the article is about how, what are we going to do without the ranchers? Now the European grasses are moving in. It's the fucking exact opposite of what they were just feeding you. Where the fuck is your brain? How do you people believe this shit?
Well, that's why we're here doing the public service, and you're, exploding arteries in your head and popping veins in your temple, explaining to people that this is 100% the opposite of the truth. It's just the opposite of the truth. Cattle ranches are incredibly destructive. They bring in the annual European grasses and plants that bloom every year and then go dry and become the so-called fire danger that the cattle are brought in to suppress and to eat. Get the cattle
Thank
out,
you.
the land will heal itself. Majorly, there's some other tweaking we could do. But I
I can
do want
count on Leah to not be upset about me cussing and going off.
to.
Thank you,
um,
Lynn Klein, for the super chat.
oh, thank you, Lynn. Thank you. So let's be specific here, because I have a rebuttal from a biologist who I haven't gotten permission to quote, so I'm going to not give the name of this biologist, but I want to beat back something specific. And this is, you inspire me to do this, Guy, or you often are. I tend to do broad strokes and make generalizations, and I am inspired by you who are more detailed in your filmmaking, where you dig into something and really get into the science, and even, took your own
Oh.
science classes. Seriously,
Let's
it's a good.
simultaneously acknowledge that when it comes to climate change, scientists are stupid. But when it comes to the ones that are going to tell you that cows will save the planet, now we can listen to scientists again.
Well, as I've said for years and will continue to say, 97% of the world's climate scientists know that global heating, global warming, climate change is the euphemism for it because it doesn't sound as bad, is real. And more
But
importantly,
that's the 97% we shouldn't listen to.
is anthropogenic, caused by humans. And yes,
No,
97%. But I mean, this is actually, what's his name? John Oliver did a great piece on this where he had the equivalent of 97 extras come on and say, these are scientists all saying one thing. And we bring one person in who says, no, it's a hoax. And these are in equal argument, one on either side, even though it's 97 times the number of scientists, specifically climate scientists, not someone with a PhD in botany or whatever, or range science, of course, saying that, no, we're not causing climate change. But anyway, that's all out the window now because we're living in the Trumpian idiocracy. God help us. The Nature Conservancy says 2 former ranches are now overrun with invasive grass known as purple velvet grass.
now they're overrun. My God.
Point 1, and that cattle, 2, are the best tool to stop its spread.
Oh my God.
So I should stop there, but I'm going to finish what I've highlighted here. Meanwhile, some ranchers worry that short-term grazing by an absentee contractor, meaning new ranchers they bring in, if they don't bring in Kevin Lunny and the gang, that would risk replacing year-round, watch Skylar's face, multi-generational stewardship with a model that lacks long-term incentives to protect the fragile grasslands and respond quickly when conditions change.
Jesus
Our
Christ.
ranchers
So
do it best.
they're basically pitching that we need cattle there full time.
Well, and they need their cattle from the ranchers who've been there before because they know the land and they're
So they got paid
responsible.
to leave and they aren't going to leave again.
Well, they don't want to. They want to take the money as they did the first time. We're watching it. What's kind of fascinating, if you can pull back emotionally from it, and I'm just saying you can or that you should, but we're watching in slow motion how it was done the first time. Actually, it's still a little faster, but they take the money, agree to leave, and then they work politically to say, no, we have to stay and we should say. Yes, and it is a word salad. Thank you for putting that up on the screen from Corinne. Yeah, and it's, as Leah says, oh my God, the perfect excuse and lie, the perfect lie to bring back ranching. Now, the thing that is utterly enraging, Leah, you point out, a great term, utterly enraging, is that the Nature Conservancy is now an advocate for cattle ranching. The Nature Conservancy, think about that, is advocating, like the industry does, that cattle ranching is not only not destructive, but necessary and beneficial. That's the upside down world we live in. Or as Skyward said, the opposite of the truth. So we'll go. So make a comment, and then I'm going to go to the evidence of a biologist to educate people a little bit more, as I was educated just recently about purple velvet grass. I don't know the name of plants,
Well,
names of plants.
I can tell you,
Go
and I
ahead.
know which biologist you're talking about.
Yeah, I just didn't get that biologist
When
from.
I first started filming the plants in Point Reyes, 2018, and would ask for help in identifying because I couldn't do it yet. Purple velvet grass was one of them that was, already vastly spread and in high density. Hey, this is. Oh, I know what I wanted to say, Jack. I'm sorry. I
Go
keep
ahead.
interrupting you, but
That's fine.
where are consequences? This is never going to stop if there aren't consequences for lying. Why aren't there consequences for the Point Reyes light publishing lies? Why aren't there consequences for TNC publishing lies? Why aren't there consequences for the people that are going to cause all of us to be in a war for water? Summer is 10 months out of the year, and life generally sucks. And they did it because they were getting rich, killing the planet. And they'll never face any fucking consequences. So why would they ever stop?
Yeah, great questions and enraging questions. And you might as well, say, how do we have the most corrupt president in American history who is now literally suffering from dementia? I don't mean that as a slur. I mean it as a medical assessment. So this biologist talks about velvet grass, which is Holcus linatus, is a European meadowgrass, one of the few introduced perennial tufted grasses, because most grasses in California are annuals. They only live a year and then that seed and die. Velvet grass has been a part of the seashore for decades.
Yep.
And what I think is happening here, says this biologist, is a biological mechanism called release. Velvet grass was planted here because it's a soft, lush, palatable grass for dairy cattle, and they graze it down continually. The grasses were probably so grazed down that they seldom had a chance to set seed and reproduce well. When the cattle were recently removed in parts of the seashore, this major threat disturbance factor was removed, releasing the velvet grasses to grow taller, grow stalks with seed heads, and finally spread seed. Each plant lives for multiple years, called perennial growth habit, but they may not be able to seed every year if cattle keep grazing on the seed heads. So now they're
We
more
have
noticeable. So just let me finish. So now they're more noticeable, not necessarily spreading. They have always been here, getting trampled and grazed down.
it gets even thicker. Not what you just said is very interesting. The idea that you didn't see them get tall enough. Didn't mean that they weren't there, but you didn't see them get tall enough. But in addition to everything else, the ranchers, and go back in history. Where do you think the European grasses came from, people? How do you think European grasses arrived in California?
On the backs of cows, or the hooves of calves, right? Cows brought in.
Okay, now, in addition to all the playing innocent shit, ranchers literally bring in the seeds of non native grasses.
Meaning they bring in hay, extra food.
Truckloads of seeds, bags of seeds. We have photos of this taking place. Not
Is it,
only has it existed while ranchers were there, we have evidence of them making sure it stayed.
meaning they actually plant seeds, they spread the seed, or
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
interesting. Okay, I didn't know that.
And then they dump the liquid shit on top of it, and then they follow that up by dumping the dry shit on top of it, and then they have the cows walk on top of it and shit on it some more. That's the stewardship that we're talking about here.
So it literally is a shit show.
Yeah.
A
we
boba,
have we have a legitimate question, so we should acknowledge that.
please.
Pardon my ignorance. This is from Phoenix. Why weren't the ranchers heavily sued for destroying the land that they were stewarding? And this goes back to what I said earlier. Well, how can we need new stewardship when the ranchers were already doing it right in the first place? They weren't sued because they were protected, because all they were people leasing the land from the Park Service. So you had to sue the um,
Protected agent.
leaseholders. You have to sue the landlord, not the people that were living there. And yet at the same time, the ranchers want to hold the title of, oh, this is our land. We do own this land, but don't expect us to take care of this land because we're actually just leasing it for
So let me
nothing.
just comb through a little bit more of the stuff you're raising there. So the landlord is the National Park Service, NPS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they indeed imply constantly that it's their land, their farms. They didn't own it since the 60s. Through the 60s and 70s, technically, is when ranchers were paid off. Phoenix, 333333333, if that really is your name. And they still talk about it to convince the public in a way that has them think it's their land, that oh, this is private enterprise, how dare you interfere with it. They're leaseholders. Leaseholders, and the landlord, as Skyward says, is the public, which is the National Park Service, which is part of the Department of Interior, and the federal government, which taxpayers fund. So it's
Mm-hmm.
our land and our park, and that's why when you put up, when anybody goes into the park and sees barbed wire fences, you can step right over those if you can safely and ignore them because they're not allowed to keep you off of public land. You just don't go near the ranch structures or the businesses. And of course, a lot of these are shuttering now, so we'll encourage people to go out, walk around there, and check out how destructive these places were. And by the way,
Oh, no, no, no. They'll discover these new plants that just arrived.
yeah, well, of course, but they're actually coming at this from a different direction. There actually was a lawsuit. And I think
Mm,
originally brought in, was it 2016 or 2017 when these three organizations, Western Watersheds Project, Center for Biological Diversity, and Resource Renewal Institute, brought a suit claiming environmental damage. And that was against, again, the Park Service, like you're not being good landlords, your correct
right,
term here, Skylar. So that was
right.
a long suit. There was a settlement agreement. And then they sued again, I think a year or 2 years later. I forget the date exactly. Jim Coda would know this stuff. A lot of people would know it because they didn't actually respond. They didn't hold to their
Correct.
agreement to clean up the land.
Correct.
So they sued again. And that
Right.
suit now going all the way into 2022, 22, 23, 22 was finally settled, which is what this agreement came from. So it was that suit that you said, you're asking, well, didn't they sue? It's been a very long process, as these things unfortunately are. You wish you could just sort of make a civil suit like the rape victims of Donald Trump and his buddy Epstein and just say, I want money damages. And maybe there is a way to, maybe that's an interesting thing. Let's throw that out to the crowd here. Is there a way to bring a civil suit for damaging
Mm,
our land, the public land? And I
mm.
want monetary compensation, which I think we all agree is the only thing that's going to stop this thing. When they lose money,
Phoenix
leave.
Phoenix's question is excellent because of what it allows us to talk about. Because if you think about the ranchers complain, like a Kevin Lunny will act like he chose the payout because he was tired of dealing. He literally will say, I'm tired of dealing with the harassment and the tough life of the Park Service. The reality is the Park Service was allowing the ranchers to do anything they wanted.
Yeah.
Anything. Abuse on an astonishing level, which is why the organizations that you just mentioned sued the Park Service because the Park Service wasn't doing their job. The
Right.
ranchers are doing the actual abusing, but the Park Service are the ones who are allowing it to happen.
Ultimately
And
responsible
therefore,
as the landlord.
right.
Right.
So there were lawsuits, too, just in the time that Jack and I have been paying attention to this. And as Jack pointed out, the second one came because after the Park Service was like, oh, okay, we got sued. Now we'd better do our job. Their version of doing the job was to conclude that, hey, all the pollution that the ranchers have been doing is great.
And it took citizens movement, citizens, activists, I should say, to actually, well, are they stewarding the land or not? Let's test the water. And if I may, I was not the first activist in this. There have been activists in this for decades. It takes a huge community of activists. Please join our movement because this is not over yet, folks. And we do have momentum on our side. I like to argue as an optimist. Join us. But
It's
it
never
was
going to be
my
over.
big idea. It was my bright idea. Hey, let's bring in an independent water tester, an actual scientist, a civil engineer to test the water. And then that idea was good. So other people said, yes, let's do this. And then other people like Western Watersheds Project, in Defense of Animals, Resource Renewal Institute, um, and then other private citizens, I don't think they should be named, kicked in money and financed a second, more extensive round of water testing the next year. Because, of course, they didn't accept the findings, which is surprise. There was fecal manure indicator bacteria in all the sites tested
Where did that
downstream.
come from?
There's cows up there. Let's test the water down here below the dairy 100 yards away. Surprise! There's fecal indicator bacteria, enterococci and E. coli and such in the waterways of your national park, poisoning the animals and poisoning the ocean. Surprise!
So we ended up answering Phoenix's next question: why not sue the Park Service? That's exactly what happened.
And that is what happened exactly. Yeah, it's not. I mean, you go
And
crazy.
why did the TNC? Why did the TNC? Why are some people happy about the TNC? Even though there was a lawsuit that the Park Service was facing at the time that the TNC stepped in. And
Mhm.
here's the problem: if you look at what happened after the first lawsuit, that the Park Service just wasted everybody's time and still concluded, yeah, we like ranchers destroying the park.
They'll clean up their act a little bit. They'll make it better
We
now.
might, right, we might have faced the exact same thing again
Well,
and again
yes,
and again.
and there was one other reason that the Nature Conservancy stepped in, and I mean, it was. I mean, there was disagreement about it, but I think it was the right thing to
Because
do.
of the big plan, apparently, that the ranchers would actually stay and get paid to stay again. They're going to be back.
Well, also, Biden administration was on the way out, and the Trump administration was on the way in, which meant all
All
bets
right.
of any kind of legality would be off. And I mean, already anything is possible. That the Nature Conservancy steps
Mhm.
in, says cattle ranching is great. So that's under the Biden administration. With Trump in now, I mean, Lunny and Nyman and Giacomini, all these rancher players, and Albert Strauss of Strauss Organic, wonderful dairy products, which are not. Um, these guys just constantly are stumping to try to get RFK Jr. because he's a top scientist.
Jesus.
He's one of the leading brainworm scientists we have to get involved in this issue just politically, get Trump administration to pay attention to it and do their magic, which would be to run roughshod over any kind of environmental regulation as they're dismantling all environmental regulations across the board for all industries. Merry Christmas, everyone, by the way. So moving on. And by the way, I do want to make a note here, folks. In 20 minutes or so, when we wrap this up, I do want to end on a positive note, and I have a way to do that. Okay. I know that's not possible, but I actually have something planned because, we're going to wrap up here. This is our last show, Skylar, our last show of the year of our Lord, 2025. Our 58th show, folks, every
It's
Tuesday
incredible.
morning at 9 a.m. It's incredible. We haven't died or killed each other or been killed or killed others. Phoenix says, highly recommend reading The Monkey Wrench Gang, very refreshing. And that's the great Edward Abbey, one of my heroes, who said, I mean, my God, talk about being an environmentalist and Harvard educated too. Passion without action is the ruination of the soul.
Mm.
The author of The Monkey
Social
Wrench.
media. Social media. I clicked like, or I complained online, and then that's the end.
If that's all you do, it's not enough. But there is a place for social media. It does get the word out. It's tricky. It's not a nothing, but it's not enough. Yes. Anyway, join us, folks, and you actually get to go out on the land and see the elk and be in a beautiful place, Point Reyes, and it's not quickly enough, but becoming a more beautiful place, which is hinting at what I'm going to show at the end of this broadcast here today. So, continuing back to this article. So, just for facts here, this is true. There is a little bit of truth snuck in here between all the lies. Under the settlement, the Conservancy will lease over 16,000 acres of former farmland for up to 45 years. So it was 18,000
Jesus.
acres of pastoral zone, as they call it, which is ranching destruction areas. 2,000 acres is what they want to graze right now under short term, and then they want to graze a lot of it rotationally on and off, not as heavily as at first, but still bring in cows and trample the crap out of the place, or trample the crap into the place over 16,000 acres, which should be cow free. And that will be, they want to give them 20-year leases with options to renew, which is horrific. So that's where we activists come in to make a big stink, to cause political pressure and social pressure to not do this.
Jesus Christ, dude. We're right back where we were.
That's correct. Although we are dealing with 2 ranches in the park now, not 14.
Are we? Because if we're in, because we're just importing the ranchers that left.
Will you stop pointing to the half of the glass that's empty as I'm pointing to the half of the glass that's full? Will you stop that? Just promise to never do it again. According to the Conservancy, the purpose of the 8-month contract, that's the short-term one they're now getting bids on, is to reduce, quote, the biomass of non-native grasses, especially purple velvet grass, that can outcompete more fragile native plant communities and impair habitat for sensitive species. Beef cattle will be enlisted for this gentle, targeted or frequent targeted grazing, in which pastures are divided into small, here we are, rotating sections. Rotational grazing, there's the bullshit term. Grazing will be, I love this, carefully choreographed. They're going to bring in the Paul Taylor Dance Company and carefully choreograph it with herd sizes adjusted for rainfall, plant growth, and bird nesting seasons.
God damn. That is such utter horseshit.
No doubt they will use range science to carefully choreograph grazing. Oh, God. The plan will be driven by the needs of the natural resources at the seashore, where there are invasive species issues brought in by cattle, where there are sensitive resources trampled by cattle that need to be prioritized or protected despite being trampled by cattle, where grazing should be focused or avoided. Ms. Gannett, the scientist for TNC, says, we're trying to tailor and grow a program around that. It will have to be adaptive. I love that word. That makes me feel better because there's always more to learn, and these are environments that change over time. Doesn't that sound nice? Isn't that comforting?
I'm not even fucking responding.
Skylar's I'm beating him into a coma by reading this article in the Point Reyes Light, folks, just a couple weeks ago. And of course, Ms. Gannett.
Who wrote this?
This is Sophia Grace Carter, young new reporter for the Light, but it's the work of Tess Elliott, the editor. She's the one that has turned tail recently and said, okay, I'm full in to back the ranchers because that's where my cream is churned and my bread is buttered, meaning her advertisers for the Point Reyes Light are industry folk. Of course. Miss Gannett first began working at Point Reyes about 25 years ago as a doctoral student at UC Berkeley. Said her research on the effect of grazing on rare plant species in the seashore was funded by the industry, and she couldn't get anyone else to fund her for other stuff, so she took the cattle money. Oh, wait, I made that up. I'm sorry. That's incorrect. Said her research on the effect
You
of
know, it'd be
grazing.
fun.
What?
We should dissect one of her studies.
Well,
Yeah.
funny you say that. I have one here. I
Oh,
do. Well,
wow. We didn't plan this, folks. This is great.
Well, it's the one that the TNC is basing their thing on. She's a researcher at UC Berkeley on a paper with 3 other authors, and this is the one that said 4 species of birds, specifically including the meadowlark, were specifically they benefited from cattle grazing and the plants that the cattle stimulated. So
Okay, so we did we talked about this because I already talked about
So just to go over
Point Blue.
So the major point, though, is that because they found a few bird species and could prove it as scientists in scientific jargon,
They didn't prove it.
from cattle, they then make this sweeping, absurd, non-scientific generalization that biodiversity, whatever that means, broad term, is benefited by cattle grazing. That's how it works, folks. You get money from the industry to do a little study that proves something true in this little corner here, and then you expand and extrapolate onto a much larger, well, in this case, 18,000 acres will benefit because these 4 birds benefited if you bring in cattle.
I know I keep interrupting you, but like when you say it's true for this little corner, I have to tell you, it's not even true for that corner. It's true if you look for a very specific period of time and only look for one thing.
Right.
I mean, it's not even true in the corner if you consider what I just said. And if for those of you who didn't listen last week, I included in my original film, The Shame of Point Reyes, the studies from Point Blue, back before they just completely turned, showing how bad for bird species ranching was in Point Reyes. Now ranching is necessary for birds. I mean, they can't both be true. Again, you need to be suspicious. And if your research concludes that the original Point Blue study was incorrect and that ranching is the key to bird species health, then so be it. But go look, because they can't both be true. And you should be very alarmed by the fact that people are publishing things that are the exact opposite of what was previously published.
Well, it's like saying that like you cut down an entire forest and let it go to European grasses, and then whatever
But you
species,
found a bird. You found a bird hidden underneath one of the fallen branches.
well, or whatever species come, preferably native, whatever that means, native species come to those grasses, then you say, you see, it benefits from this forest reduction therapy. You give these fancy, Orwellian terms to it, then you can claim any benefit. I mean,
There's a bird on the power line outside my window, Jack. We
right.
should probably cover the planet in power
Oh,
lines because my study
right.
just proved that power lines benefit birds.
Right. This goes back to our show on how science can be manipulated. And you really have to, I mean, the trouble with all this stuff is in our growing American idiocracy, where you go to ChatGPT as your new search engine, which it isn't, it just pulls very quickly from articles that, are generated by the cattle industry or the coal industry or whatever, and tells you
Tech,
what you want to hear.
tech, at least for now, is in charge of AI until AI takes control of itself.
Skynet.
But if the only thing necessary to feed AI's database is who's in charge and the techies get paid, then your AI is now going to feed you a filtered source of information.
Yeah. Well, that's why, I mean, more than ever, the thing that Carlin talked about, he does this crazy thing called thinking, which I would say critical thinking is you really have to learn to think for yourself, people. Phoenix again says, well, you could sue the TNC. It's true. It's a lengthy process, and that is, it may become necessary. We'll see how they respond to media pressure and social pressure, a little bit of political pressure as we activists can apply it. But it starts from the grassroots people. Talk about grassroots. It starts from us activists making good
Are
trouble.
any ranchers suing the TNC? Because if they didn't like what the TNC was doing, you might think that the ranchers are suing the TNC.
It's not impossible. And kind of Giacomini is trying to thread that needle, right? Andrew Giacomini, an attorney, ranch family, who's suing very cleverly the Park Service for harming what he considers, well, it's all nonsense, of course, to say that up front, but it's to help the workers that are being booted off the land because they were illegal tenants, and they're victims too. I don't pick on them. But Giacomini is trying to put a lawsuit in to be disruptive, but without threatening the payouts to the ranchers, which is tricky because that's part of the deal. That's why it can't really be unraveled.
It's also an important detail that Giacomini is not one of the ranchers in this deal.
But he's related to them. He's ranch family, right? The Giacomini family. So Corinne asks, do we as activists have a plan going forward? Well, that's for a discussion offline. Yeah, I mean, we have some, what is it, ideas of a plan? What is that expression? You know what I'm referring? Oh, come on, Corinne knows it. Well, what did Trump say? Do you have a plan? Let's see your healthcare plan. Well, we have ideas of a plan or prospects of a plan. I forget the phrase. It was brilliant, meaning no, we don't. In our case, I have some ideas. Other folks have some ideas, and we need to organize and implement them. This is what the grassroots activists do. They get shit started, and then inevitably media gets involved, and usually lawsuits as well. We'll see.
The Giacomini's are interesting. Andrew Giacomini is interesting. They have empires of land.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It does come down to a few wealthy landowners in Marin County who own tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of acres and want to maintain control of it and always have. I mean, it is, as we call it, the Marin County milk money mafia.
Well, Jack, you ruined my day.
You're welcome. As you would say, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Let's jump to your positive thing. We can.
Okay. So I'll just do it visually rather than even talking it. We can talk about it afterwards. So this you may not be able to hear the sound in this, but it doesn't. Whoopsie. Hello. I'm sure you can hear the sound. We'll see. So it's just so excited. I'm trying to keep my voice down, but this is something we've never seen before. Counted 74 elk. A few of them was split off to the right, but this is one big boy with a big rack in there who's running this herd of females and spikes, 1-year-old males. Center frame there, one big bull elk. Kehoe and Jerry, where they've never been in this large number before, because about a mile that way, the fence has been broken up. Oh, January, almost a year ago now. And this is okay, so I don't even need to hear myself talk anymore. But this is Skyward shot this clip of me. We were out there December 5th, and this is 74 elk we counted on a hillside on the former ranch property of K Ranch at Point Reyes Seashore. More elk than we've ever seen before outside the reserve. We assume, don't know, assume they came out of the reserve and have a herd that's now living on the ranch land, which should never have been ranch land. Well, it shouldn't have been ranch land since the 1960s and 70s when they sold it. They should have been booted out. That was the agreement. So the good news is, folks, go to Point Reyes now and go visit, and you will see from your freaking car more elk than ever before visible, at least in this largest of the 3 herds in the park, the one at Tomales Point, the one inside the former elk reserve. And one more clip. This one you did not see, Skylar. This is when I was out there. This is my idea of Christmas. I don't think there's sound. The sound doesn't matter. But this is another elk herd well, you know where this is, South Pond 1. I was there with Andy and Corinne, who are watching this podcast, and this is my nifty little iPhone. Oh, I'm teaching an iPhone class, by the way, how to take better pictures, not necessarily video, but iPhone photography class for those people who want to know how to make better photographs. I am a professional photographer for over 35 years. Not
Step 1, buy the iPhone.
No. Actually, hey, buddy. Okay, let's get into it. I had an iPhone 12, and I thought, it's a good camera. I'm actually going to sell it now. But then I was next to you. You had an iPhone 15. We both reached out the same car window and took a picture of a black-tailed deer to zoom in and see its black tail, or was it a white tail? And your picture was so much better quality. As a photographer, me, who uses the thing as a damn camera, it's like I get to get an iPhone 15. And long story short, it was actually cheaper to get a 17. I don't care about the numbers. It has a longer lens and better optics, basically, bigger megapixel count. But it's not about megapixels. It's just a larger sensor. And it does, this video is telephoto. You'll see at the end here, I zoom out to show the scale. But it is a better camera. So the iPhone's a great, any of the smartphones are great tools for, the handy camera you have with you. And I'll be teaching a class, not this Saturday, but next. So contact me if you're interested. But check this out. This is inside the reserve on Christmas Day. So in the center there, it's a young spike, a male with first-year antlers. And this is a herd of 45 elk in the south end of the Tule Elk, the former Tule Elk Reserve, which is now mostly or partially dismantled. And you can just go hang out here. It's a windy day, and sit in a hillside and hang out with these beautiful guys. They got these thick coats on now, another one on the top of the frame, another young spike with young antlers there walking in the background. And just, especially for me, because I get so wound up and talk too fast and think too much, just go sit with these beautiful furry guys. They're like big, friendly, sensitive, wild deer that do live at Point Reyes Seashore. And this is the scene with the cattle pond that has been filled up with rainwater. You can go out there and just sit in that spot and bring a lunch or a cup of tea or just sit there and be with them. Because of what's going on, well, this is inside the reserve, but there are more elk in the park right now. It's a great time of year to go visit. On a rainy day even, just, bring gear for it. But this is available to us. It's why, one reason, if I may speak for both of us, Skylar, you'll correct me, we care so much about this and are bitching about the cows all the time, because it should be this place with another 18,000 acres of land for these guys to fan out on, and every other animal too that we don't mention: foxes, bats, skunks, raccoons, badgers, all the rest of it. It should be a haven. It is a national park after all, and no commercial operation should be inside it at all, let alone the most destructive of all, the poor victimized cow, beef and dairy.
Well, it's so depressing to know that you just showed the positivity, and that is potentially going to be brought to an end because, oh, we're bringing in the cattle. Let's harass the elk out of here and put up some fencing because God forbid we let native species reenact the natural manner of managing grass. No, no, we only want it done in an unnatural way by non-native species commodity animals.
Tule elk, aren't Tule elk native, historic megafauna?
Endemic even.
Right? Those fancy words, meaning they were here for thousands of years before they were almost all, slaughtered, obliterated, made it.
Problem is they were here before the European Homo sapien arrived, and actual time started when the European Homo sapien arrived. That's when actual history started in
Well,
California.
it's his story, his European story. Trump's
Yeah.
people, the European, well, the white Europeans anyway, the ones he likes best, not the darky skinned ones, God forbid. And they were also
Jack,
here
just
before the native peoples, also before the Native American peoples too. Animals were here before. Animals came first, did they not?
when, yeah, they did.
Yeah, the original
Did
inhabitants
you?
served this
Well,
place.
I don't know. I mean, history is being changed. Like I said, rainforests pretty soon aren't going to have had an origin story without livestock. Uh, you, you showed the elk on Kehoe, and I have a parting question for people listening. All that vegetation underneath of us, as I have already shown in detail with my own video footage in previous episodes, I'll put out some more, was non native, with the exception of a few natives trying with the absence of cattle, including but not limited to velvet grass. Do you people really think that just now showed up? That it just, bam, all of the seashore suddenly is seeded with non native grasses that are growing because of the absence of the cattle? How the fuck did they get there? How did those seeds get there? They just all fell from the sky as soon as the ranchers left? I'm very I apologize for the people that don't
No, you.
like my cursing.
Well, that's the balance.
I've been doing this too long, and people have been dumb for too long, repeating the same fucking bullshit that they want to believe for too long.
Yeah.
While the planet suffers because of your stupidity.
So people, go out to the park, fall in love with the elk, and join us. And whatever flavor of personality you have, from righteous anger and indignation, which is totally appropriate, to, I mean, I use humor. It's how I get through. It's just, otherwise I burn out personally if I go, full rage mode all the time. And I have my moments. But anyway, join us. And we actually did. I choose to say 2025. This is what, the second to last day of the year, was a big success in that thousands fewer cows are in the park. And if we rest and say, oh, we're done, they'll be brought back in eventually politically. That's how it works. The Nature Conservancy is trying to do that right now. We can fight and we can win. We have fought and we have won. So I choose to be optimistic, because otherwise it's not worth getting up in the morning. There's so much bad news out there every day. If you look for bad news, it's endless. I choose to do what little good I can.
Thank you to John.
Oh, hey, John. Good to see you.
Thanks back at you. And Corinne and Phoenix put two questions up on the screen that I screenshot. We will close here, and I do want to address those questions next week.
Should I read?
No, Jack.
Okay,
Did you hear what I? Jesus Christ! What's the
Well,
point
I
of me
don't know-
saying
you're
that if
gonna-
you're going to read it now?
Well,
No.
there's reading the question and there's addressing it, but I'll do neither. That's fine. It could be a teaser for what we're going to talk about next week.
Ooh,
Jackie
Jackie
Blue.
Blue.
Jackie Blue.